When train derailments occur, they could be catastrophic disasters or death. The derailments involve freight trains and passenger trains. But in 1994, the derailment with some carriages on their sides, but nobody was killed. This is the story of the 1994 Batavia, New York train derailment, 26 years later. On August 2nd, 1994, Amtrak Passenger Train 49, the Lakeshore Limited, was a regular scheduled westbound train that traveled from New York to Chicago, Illinois. The train consisted of two F40PH locomotives, with 374 in the lead and 207 trailing. The train had two material handling cars, one baggage car, 12 coaches, and one baggage/dormitory car. 320 passengers and 19 crew members were on board. Before the train left Batavia, New York, the operating crew received a list of speed restrictions for their trip. The crew members inspected the locomotives, cars, and checked the radios. They also did a test on the air brakes, applying them and releasing the train's air brakes. The crew found no problem with the locomotives, cars, and air brakes. The Lakeshore Limited left Batavia at 10:46 p.m. and reached Rochester, New York by the early morning of August 3rd, 1994. It left Rochester at about 3:13 a.m. and at 3:27 a.m. it passed over a dragging equipment and a train defect detector. There were no defects in the train, so the train continued on. About 3:42 a.m. at milepost 403.7, suddenly something happened. The Lakeshore Limited derailed at 79 miles an hour. The entire train was completely derailed. 14 cars out of the 18 had derailed. The two locomotives and the first 7 cars remained on the right-of-way with the track section after the derailment. The locomotives units and the second and third car did not derail, and only the lead trucks of the first, fourth, and fifth car derailed. 7 cars went into the embankment, with 5 on their sides. All the rescuers, police, and firefighters arrived at the scene within minutes. As the rescuers went closer to the wreckage, they thought that some people could have been dead. But surprisingly, nobody was killed. All 108 passengers and 10 crew members were injured in this derailment. But people are wondering, how can this passenger train derail like this, and why? What was going on before this train even derailed? The NTSB investigators found some marks that were scrape marks along the tracks. About 3 miles away from the derailment site, investigators found a fattened rail at milepost 403.7. A fattened rail, which is a rail that is flat, and a flat rail can actually cause some derailments, including trains that go up to high speeds. The Sperry Rail Service conducted a track defect inspection for Conrail on June 27, 1994. No rail defects were noticed around the milepost sign. So, when the train derailed in that section, it dragged the cars about 3 miles before hitting a switch when the cars began jumping from the track and knocked down a signal bridge as well. And that's how the disaster happened. After the NTSB found the evidence they need, they concluded that the probable cause of the derailment was the fact that the federal and industrial guaranteed lines did not currently address flattened rail head conditions due to an insufficient understanding of the risk that flattened rails poses to train operations. As a result of the investigation of this derailment, The National Transportation Safety Board made some recommendations to the Federal Railroad Administration, Amtrak, the Association of American Railroads, the American Short Line Railroad Association to inspect tracks carefully and prevent any derailments. But however, there was one positive effect in this derailment. The bank wasn't filled with water before the derailment, and the coaches were very strong. That might have prevented some death in the carriages. In the end, all the locomotives and some of the cars were repaired and put back into service. But in 1998, Amtrak 374 was sold to the Florida Fund Train Railroad and still kept the same number, but in 2000 and 2010, it was sold to the PCRC Railroad and renumbered to 1860, which continues to be in service as of today. As of Amtrak 207, it continues working for Amtrak for 6 to 7 years until in 2000 and 2001, it was retired from Amtrak and it was cut up and scrapped. 26 years have passed by since this derailment occurred. Let's hope that this derailment could never be repeated in the future.